In retrospect, I guess it all didn't make perfect sense. Actually, in retrospect, it was all a disaster. It was a disgrace. It was a calamity.
First up, I saw a completely unhinged video from your governor yesterday on Twitter, Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan.
The best.
One of the worst governors of the COVID era, if not the worst. I think it's probably between her and Gavin Newsom for who was the most.
And Andrew Cuomo. They're like the three worst.
Yeah. Well, Andrew Cuomo, the whole sexual assault thing, I guess he wins. But she was really bad. So she was confronted with some of her absolute neuroses during an interview recently. And what she had to say was super cringeworthy. Let's roll this clip.
There were moments where we, had to make some decisions that in retrospect don't make a lot of sense, right? If you went into the hardware store, you could go in the hardware store, but we didn't want people, all congregating around the gardening supplies. People said, oh, she's outlawed seeds. It was February in Michigan. No one was planting anyway. But that being said, some of those policies, I look back and think, that what maybe was a little more than we needed to do.
So, Brad, I have to ask, do you typically have issues in Michigan with people just hoarding around the gardening supplies? Because that's how she makes it sound. This is ridiculous. She's basically saying, were my decisions absolutely unhinged and detached from reality? Yes. Oops. It's so annoying to me.
Yeah, it's also factually incorrect. Actually on April 2020, April 9th of 2020, she extended the order closing garden centers and nurseries. So it wasn't just February in Michigan. It was actually springtime. But what she did is what she's referencing is something insane where you would go to like a Target or a department store and it would be open, but parts of it would be closed. Like the aisle with the seeds would be closed because that wasn't allowed.
Nobody should be outside gardening.
Science. Right? It's like as if COVID spreads in the seed aisle, but not in the batteries aisle. It was always unhinged. And it's insane to me how they can laugh away the failures and inconsistencies of their literal tyrannical efforts as, I guess it wasn't all completely logical. Like, this is just atrocious. Keep in mind, this is the same governor who closed schools, who allowed schools to be closed much longer than many other places, and who actually had a policy similar to Andrew Cuomo of forcing sick patients into nursing homes, endangering populations. And then her administration was incredibly untransparent in misleading the public about the numbers of people that died as a result of that policy in nursing homes. And yet now she does these interviews and she's like, in retrospect, I guess it all didn't make perfect sense. Actually, in retrospect, it was all a disaster. It was a disgrace. It was a calamity. And it's crazy to me that they can just laugh this off.
Nobody needs retrospect. Everybody knew she was a tyrannical psychopath when she was doing it. Nothing she did, when she says it wasn't logical, ma'am, no, it was completely detached from any shred of scientific evidence. To tell people they can't go garden while they're locked in their homes, that never made any sense. To say that people needed to be 6 feet away from each other and then they couldn't catch an airborne disease, that never made any sense. It's not that you just lacked logic at the time. You went into a full dictatorship. You were grabbing power, and it was very transparent for everybody during the entirety of 2020 and 2021 that these things didn't make sense and that they had a lot more to do about these people just wanting to be able to centrally plan the lives of everyday Americans. And I cannot believe that she can sit there and laugh about what she did to people and the really serious consequences on many people's lives that we'll continue to have for years to come.
And let's not forget that Gretchen Whitmer broke her own rules, I believe on multiple occasions, but at least on one occasion she was photographed and had to apologize because she was caught on camera breaking her own COVID restrictions. So this is from May of 2021 from The Guardian, a right-wing rag. The governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, has apologized after she was caught on camera with a dozen other people who pushed tables together at a bar in East Lansing, thereby violating the state's COVID-19 restrictions. She was literally breaking the arbitrary rules she was putting on other people because those are the rules for the little people, not for the governor of Michigan and her friends. Of course not.
And that shows you right then and there that she never thought there was an actual public health or safety component to what she was doing. If she actually thought that this was something that risked your life to do, then you wouldn't be risking your life to break your own rules. So you knew that this wasn't logical at the time. You knew this wasn't actually about keeping people safe. And I'm not having any of it. I don't want the revisionist history on this. We knew that these people would do this, that they'd come back in a couple of years and like, oops, we were just taking precautions. No, you weren't. You were not taking precautions. You were trying to seize power. And honestly, I just won't hear anything else of it. So let's move on to the next one.